Without further ado, let's come to the next panel, or the next keynote by Dr. Marc Leonhardt, who will give a presentation about AI-curated press review, how to get tailored news for your business with advanced analytics. Marc is a senior data scientist at Commerzbank in the Big Data and Advanced Analytics team, and he holds a PhD from the Technical University of Darmstadt. Marc?
Thank you very much. So, microphone is working, that's great, and I even have the presenter perfect. And I'm waiting for the water. Great. So, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So maybe for this session, a slightly different topic, namely AI-curated press review. And I would like to discuss how to get tailored news for your business with advanced analytics. And maybe first as a brief introduction where I'm coming from. So I'm a senior data scientist at Commerzbank's Big Data and Advanced Analytics, BDA for short. And BDAA is Commerzbank's Center of Competence for Machine Learning and AI. And we're by now roughly 500 colleagues. And we have this one mission: we create value from data. So, in fact, we combine great experience in developing and also operating machine learning systems. And we contribute value already across various areas within the bank. And in the following, I would like to present you one application we developed that you probably might not directly associate with a bank, at least not typically. But first, what is the problem we are looking at? And it's a well-known problem, namely staying up to date with news that are relevant for you, for your business, often proves very challenging. And to give an example, this is, let's say, in particular the case, this problem, and this is exactly where we are coming from, when we consider credit officers, compliance officers, and relationship managers within Commerzbank. And here, relevant news to your case is key, is essential. And so you can think of cases, for example, it covers various aspects. For example, to deepen customer relationships is one aspect. So you need relevant data to deepen the relationship based on to know what's going on in the client's market. On top, you have, for example, cases where you want to identify news relevant for your for specific topics, let's say credit risk. So you want to have news, daily news that are relevant for you to identify credit risk. And lastly, now in general speaking, it's also relevant for compliance aspects. And here I mean, for example, negative news screening to raise awareness for the financial crime risk. And this also goes into the direction of customer due diligence and so on. So here you really rely on recent and relevant news. And with Commerzbank being the leading bank for the German Mittelstand, so meaning we have around 11 million customers, and on top we have the client-centric portfolio of financial services, and this in the two segments here, private and small business customers, and then the corporate clients. And here it's especially difficult. Picture, for example, one credit officer having in his or her portfolio clients where you are required to be up to date across industries, across sectors, across regions, and this also in a timely manner. And this proves very challenging, especially when, for example, the specific news you are looking for is not carried by the major news outlets, and on the other hand, not yet by more professional journals. And exactly this problem we try to solve. And for this, we developed one application, and this is Press for Today. So Press for Today is an application that helps you to stay up to date exactly with the news that are relevant, tailored to your needs. And maybe first, some facts and numbers. So Press for Today, the application ingests of around 12,000 articles a day, amounting to 5 million articles roughly in a year. And it comes from a source, from a universe of sources of up to 700. And they split up between global sources, but all the way down to national and also regional sources. It offers comprehensive coverage with the articles and also augmented by more specific journals covering financial, economic, and company news. And well, Press for Today, as of now, very successfully provides insights for roughly 3,000 internal users. And it comes with nice features. So for example, automatic portfolio import, so that credit officer doesn't have to set up, getting into technical details, so to say, to set it up. It's right out of the box. It works for the credit officer. But on top, you can define manually define so-called search objects, and exactly those search objects define your area of interest. And on top, it comes also with features like top news of the day to give a global perspective or overview, and free text search in the archive. And also when a specific feature of Press for Today is not only serves it the right relevant information for your, let's say, companies, but it also gets really into the details of articles. So for example, again, for credit risk, so we have sentiment signals, meaning so an article is scanned if a company you have in your portfolio is associated or mentioned alongside with credit relevant statements, for example, big losses or a change of management. And so those articles are flagged so that you are aware of these special credit risk relevant news articles. Long story short, Press for Today manages to reduce the flood of information and cut it down to really the information that is essential to you. And in fact, to solve this problem, to really deliver up-to-date news for your users, you need to solve various challenges. And at the very beginning, as a data science, or let's say from a data science perspective, you have this classical information retrieval problem, where you have on the one hand recall, and on the other hand precision. And well, recall means you want to have to find all the relevant articles, but precision at best only the relevant articles. And unfortunately, this is often anti-correlated, so you have to balance those out. This is the general problem, but now we get into the specifics when it comes to our context. And this is, first of all, we need to handle streams of articles. So there you have the challenge, the database changes every day significantly. Then source variations. So here, you cannot count on the metadata that is provided for an article they are simply not consistent across the different sources. So you unfortunately cannot rely on them, especially when it gets into the more regional newspapers. Lastly, common search strategies, when you think of this problem as a plain search problem, unfortunately, they cannot be applied. So think of, for example, measure proxies that you have when it comes to cross-reference proxies. Think of Google as a search engine. Or popularity is simply not there, so you cannot build on these proxies to build up your search engine. And then on top, we have the specialty insights. As mentioned before, we need to have models for credit risk information and so on. And all this against the background of always balancing complexity versus latency, because you want to have the search to be performant. You do not want to wait long for the results. And in fact, Press for Today solves these issues with a collection of various targeted machine learning models that are all integrated then in one sequence, one processing sequence to generate insights. And well, overall, the goal is, as mentioned before, to have relevant articles for the users. And it's unfortunately a tricky issue, and it's nicely summarized here in this quote: relevancy tuning is a rabbit hole that you can easily fall into and never emerge. Why? Because relevance is subjective. So hunting down, let's say, one narrow user group is not meaningful. You end up being too specific and cannot serve the out-of-the-box new users, and also based again with the needing to take into account the stream of news articles. So to state up front, to state very early, to state you need to have a meaningful and, let's say, very intelligent end-to-end monitoring system and feedback process. This is key. Otherwise, you're blind all the time when you develop. And now I would like to get a little bit more into the details what Press for Today is actually on a technical side, so having a glance under the hood. And it's mentioned before, it uses various NLP models which separately push recall and precision to then arrive at the end to increase relevance. And to start out, maybe a few technical remarks. So we develop exclusively on the Google Cloud platform. So it's a cloud native application, which is really necessary here as we need to have the scaling vertical horizontally. So we start out with PubSub bringing the Dow Jones articles. This is in fact the news provider in the background into Elasticsearch. And Elasticsearch is the cornerstone as the search engine for this application. On the other hand, you have the search objects, and search objects meaning the defined area of interests the user want to be informed about. And now I would like to walk you through what happens. And for this, let's consider an example. And this is plain one, find relevant articles for a made-up company, John Doe Inc. So what do you start? So what is the very starting point? And this is business rules. So meaning you can, and this is also given to the user can select specific rules, what kind of sectors he wants to look into, what kind of categories. Here, for example, technology, computer, AI category, business use. And do not underestimate business rules, as they are for sure easy to cover, but it's also important to cover because it takes away, so you should try to take away with rules as much as possible to then really leverage with the machine learning models to really then discriminate in a fine-grained manner. So that's not really covering business rules means you cannot fully exploit machine learning models later on. And as the first real machine learning model, it's the so-called alias engine that now pushes recall. And what does it mean? In fact, the alias engine identifies aliases of company names. And under the hood, it's several models that models methods for processing, identification, and also disambiguation of company names. Of course, much of it is trivial. So let's say here, John Doe Inc. is mapped then to Joe Doe, John Doe Incorporation, and maybe JD as abbreviation and so on. But there are also non-trivial problems. Look, consider, for example, the mapping of Facebook to Meta or Twitter to X. So these are non-trivial cases here. But well, with this, you already have two nice components pushing already recall and precision that you can put in your Elasticsearch query based on a plain match phrase and filter query, having already good results. But now we get into the specifics of pushing it more. And there we implemented a sequence of different models that build on top of each other. So first of all, named entity recognition. So this is the very basis of the application because it brings text from raw text to things, to a bit of understanding. So meaning it annotates the text if the name here, what is written, is it a company, is it an organization, person, product, and so on. It's a plain BERT model, fine-tuned to our articles, but this is also important because it's lightweight enough to frequently run and keep computational costs at bay. Having this, we can now build on top of that. So here we bring in a so-called infometer, which computes a quality score of each article. So it's actually a boosted tree model where you have you take 68, I think it's text features from the articles and tries to identify is the article of high quality or not in a general manner. And to just give examples of features, we look at stop words ratio, words per paragraph, and so on. But also we build on NER. So meaning we look at how many company names were identified in the article, how many in the title, and so on. And this greatly increases the precision of having really high quality articles in your final result. On top, embeddings. So we have, well, again here, a rather plain sentence transformer model that computes embedding for each article that you have semantic information to again increase recall. And lastly, the more specialty insights, the model targeted to that, so here sentiment signal to identify credit risk, it is again a BERT model fine-tuned to our articles that also now built on NERs again. Why? Because you cannot infer polarity for an overall article, it doesn't make sense. So you need to identify first the target sentences, talking about companies, and then from those sentences, you infer polarity to then arrive at a credit risk signal that is meaningful. Now, this is the enrichment to finally arrive at the golden query that you can put in based on all those models that you perform searches on. And this golden query increases relevance to a maximum. And maybe two further additional remarks on the technical aspects. Of course, you have the sequence of models required to run frequently. And you have performance issues, especially when it comes to user interaction. You don't want to have much latency. So you always have to take into account or keep in mind what you need to have at query time, but what can you already do at index time. And here the key message is you should always think about pushing as much as possible during index time already into Elasticsearch, because then query time is very lightweight with low latency. And also, don't think only of those models to be building on top of each other in one direction. You also have the direction back, so kind of a cross-fertilization of models. So what I mean, just to give an example, you can think about using embeddings, inferring similar articles. From those similar articles, extract named entities such as company names, and then check in this universe or identified of related companies, is the alias engine still mapping out into the right direction to cover the right company names here. So this already brings me to the final conclusion and the final or most important message. You should think about, and this is exactly what Press for Today is doing, to establish a machine learning project strategy. So often you are caught up in thinking too narrowly in specific features without having the big picture in mind. And what I mean with machine learning project strategy, it means to take into account early on the interplay of models end to end, that you can, especially here, then leverage on cross-fertilization, back and forth, looping back to enhance models, but also in the end to build on top, that you arrive at good relevance. Relevance as the final measure requires, as mentioned before, end-to-end testing at all development steps and also at operating phase. So you need to have good monitoring and a feedback procedure. Also, you see here Elasticsearch is put in the middle. So it's the engine that integrates all data science models, but also think here in the other direction. So also Elasticsearch is integrated by data science, meaning you always end up having a query you need to formulate with parameters and think about using those parameters as hyperparameters in your data science models. And with this, you also, from data science perspective, smartly integrate Elasticsearch to further push Elasticsearch. And for all this last point, you need a close collaboration of data scientists, engineers, and business experts for sure. And we are lucky to have in the Press for Today team excellent data scientists and engineers, but also a very enthusiastic and strong product owner who really nicely covers, so to say, the business side to give a clear picture early on what is in the long run, because only then you have the long run picture to actually, along this, can come up with the machine learning project strategy. And with this, thank you very much, and I'm happy for questions. On the App Store, good question. Perfect question, actually, because it's so far only for internal users, but there is in fact a plan to roll it out to external users. And here for corporate clients of Commerzbank. So there will be going external, but you need to be a customer of Commerzbank. But let's see if it might be rolled out. Totally right. Thank you very much for the comment. I totally agree. Because for me, often when you have already kind of news feeds that tracks where you click at, you tend to getting too narrowly focused over time. And this is exactly prevented here because it does not do that. So totally agree. Thank you for the comment. Yeah. Oh, sorry. One last question. Not sure who was first.
I was wondering what best practices you based this for today on?
Oh, thank you very much for the question. So we realized when you have those tightly integrated different models, best practices are in fact key, and especially when it comes to standardization. So we introduced, for example, data science model templates. And with the really easy tools such as Cookie Cutter, actually I forgot to mention it was on one slide written. So Cookie Cutter and also DVC, data version control. So this really fosters collaboration when it comes to model development and also data sharing across data scientists. So standardization is really key to quickly move as one data scientist across models, because you have to have actually the overview of the various different ones to, again, have this strategy picture for the long run. Yeah. So standardization is really key.
Thank you very much, Marc, and a warm round of applause.